Don't always do this, but I wanted to give you a brief introduction to the second set of materials that we're doing for Unit 3. What we're focusing on here are more recent histories, specifically that of Guatemala in some detail. So the video that I've put together of the slideshow provides a history of Guatemala in the 20th century, especially focusing on the violence and the civil war of the mid-20th century to the late 20th century. I added a couple of Radio Ambulante podcasts here. If you can't listen to both of them, that's fine. Just listen to one or the other if you get a chance, or read one or the other. The one about El Juez, or the judge, talks about Mayan justice systems that are still being used in different places in Guatemala, despite the fact that there is a national justice system. So those two things sometimes butt heads because the processes and the customs are very different. The second one is called Renuncia Ya. I mention it in the presentation that I have put together here, and it tells the story of a Twitter campaign that removed Otto Pérez Molina, the president of Guatemala, from power in 2015 because of the corruption charges that were levied against his government. So those are good stories that go along with the main presentation and the slideshow that I've provided here. The other podcasts, listen to the 99% Invisible one. The other one's just there for more depth and detail if you want to listen to it. They're both in English, so there won't be that issue of potential translation and needing to read the transcript. But they talk about the situation in Mexico in 1968 when the Olympics were held there, but also when the Tlatelolco massacre took place. So Mexico, unlike Guatemala or Brazil or Argentina or Chile, where there was an outright dictator, there was a high level of repression, disappearances, torture, and murder. In Mexico, there was still the kind of facade of a democratic system. I say it that way because there was only one party in power, the PRI, or the Institutional Revolutionary Party, in Mexico. Writer Mario Vargas Llosa called it the perfect dictatorship because it acted like a dictatorship, although it didn't seem like one. And so that's kind of what we get at with the story, coming from an interesting angle of the design of the logos for the Olympics. So I hope that you enjoy that. Please ask any questions you have about that history of Mexico or the history of Guatemala. For the second half of the unit, you will be posting tweets on these materials, but you will not have to do a discussion on Slack. Instead, you'll be posting to your blog. So go and revisit the blog instructions. Remember that each blog post has to be at least 600 words in length. And you can hopefully draw from the materials that we've had for this second half of the unit in thinking about the more recent histories and issues facing Latin America as you post that blog. Also remember that the topic and the format for your final project is due by the end of this unit as well. So if you have any questions about any of that, please don't hesitate to ask.